What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Cambridge University Press Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion video with me, John Bracey, aka Magister Bracey. Today, we're going to do video number 2 in our series, The Case for Representation, and why it is so important in your classroom and how you're going to be able to free yourself up to be able to accurately, adequately, and appropriately depict all varieties of people, particularly a wide variety of racial categories as we now describe them. The case for representation. This is video number 2, assigning racial categories. Let's get it. Assigning racial categories. Now, look at the lovely artwork behind me here. You'll notice here that we have a variety of Greek pots. We're looking at some ancient Greek pottery. Why? Let me tell you. In our last video, we talked about the basics of race, right? We talked about race being a social construct and in no way scientific or observable, right? Now, let's pretend that what I said is not true. And let's take a look at these pieces of Greek art and what we can draw as conclusions. So let's see. Let's start over here with our lovely vase right here. Looks like, what's that, Ajax? We got Ajax over here. All right, let's look at this one here. Okay, so I'm an archaeologist. I've discovered this pot. And based on this, I have drawn the conclusion that the ancient Greeks were absolutely 100% black. I'm looking at them right there. Whoops, right there. I'm looking at them right there. They are black. They depict themselves as black. Not brown, not ruddy. They depict themselves in this pot over here. In this pot over here, they depict themselves as black. So, okay, the ancient Egyptians are black. The ancient Greeks are black. Obviously, it's right there. Huh? Okay, proof. Although, if you look at the one right behind me here, we have a new archaeological revelation. It looks like all Greek men were black. But now that we're seeing women, it's clear that women were white or yellowish, perhaps a yellow tint. This is interesting. We have a society made up exclusively of black men and white women. Then, at some point, they evolved. If we look at the last pot here, people playing ball over there, look at this last pot here, it looks like they evolved. Now they've all turned red. A lovely faint red. So then the ancient Greeks at some point turned a lovely red color. At least the men did in that picture there. Fascinating. Do you see where I'm going with this here? So, racial categories, right? Again, these are not observable in nature. These are not literal. When you hear white person, you're not talking, at least I've never seen this, you're not talking about a literally white human. Just like when you hear a black person, you're not talking about a literally black human. No, you may look at me. I identify as a black person. Am I black? Like literally the color black. If you were to draw me, the crayon, would you take out of the thing there? Would you take out the black crayon to draw my face? Probably not, because that is not the color of my skin. Right? These are not literal descriptions of people. Just like the depictions in art aren't literal descriptions of what the people look like. So we can assume that the ancient Greeks, based on what we know about the region, the time, whatever have you, we can reasonably assume that that ancient Greece, by and large, was not made up exclusively of black men and white women. These are things we can assume, right? In fact, because we see this radical shift here, we can tell that the depictions were likely stylistic or just based on the materials they were using, right? Because without race, there's no value associated with the different skin colors, right? Why is this important? Why is this important? Because again, look here when we're talking about assigning racial categories, right? Here is a quote from Herodotus. The Egyptians said that they considered the Colchians, right, part of Sesostris' army. I myself guessed it, partly because they are dark-skinned and woolly-haired, though that indeed counts for nothing since other peoples are too. I mentioned this quote in the first video, right? Sound familiar? Now what I've added to it is a set of images. Now, these might be familiar to you, but let's have a quick look at them. What you see here are 2 coins. Now, what you see is someone who appears to match the description. Woolly-haired, at least. Dark-skinned? Can you tell from the picture? Who knows? It's the color of the coin. Do we assume that whoever this person was on this coin was silver? Like, was their skin made out of silver? Probably not, right? We can assume this is stylized. But, now, if we look back here, we comfortably and confidently, and when we teach our classes, assume that the ancient Greeks were a non-black people. A non-black people. We very comfortably do that, despite having depictions of them as literally black. Yet, the mental gymnastics we go through when we look at this. Now, we are to believe that these 2 famous coins here that were minted by Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general, Carthage is in Africa, mind you, that these depict, now again, these are coins minted by Hannibal, these depict, of course, elephants on one side, but on the other side, the human face, that's his elephant driver. We are to believe that Hannibal Barca, one of the greatest generals in history, at the time he was at the top of his power, his authority, that he used that to mint coins to celebrate his elephant driver? Okay. At any point in history, ever, has anyone minted a coin and said, you know what? I'm not going to put myself on it. Nah, that's too on the nose. I'm going to put my elephant driver. Nothing like that has ever happened. We have no historical precedent for anything like that ever happening. It doesn't even make sense. Yet we can look at this person who is clearly a black African from Africa, from a coin that was minted in Africa by an African. And we have to assume that this is that the person who minted this coin, Hannibal, still must be non-African. And the evidence that we're using is because there is so clearly a black African depicted on this coin here. That's the evidence that this can't be Hannibal. Do you see the difference in the way that we approach this sort of thing versus the way we approach this sort of thing? Is it becoming clear? Race is not real. So when we're looking at these ancient sources for people who did not have race as we know it today, we are making choices. We are choosing how we want to portray these people. These historical people that we've never physically seen in our lives, we're making choices in how we tell our students that these people appeared, how they looked, what their ethnicity was, what their racial category would have been, who in your class they would have resembled. I'm asking you to look at that again, revisit, and reconsider. This has been video number 2. Stay tuned for video number 3, where we get into the impact of these choices on your students and on your teaching. This has been John Bracey. Catch you in the next one. Wale.